So, Skyrim. Yeah, it's the game that I've been constantly complaining about throughout, the last, few months probably. So, of course, obviously, let's take a look at the Creation Club. So, this is kind of going to be a bit of a review of the Anniversary Edition, as well with, a quest review. So, obviously, before I get into this video, I just want to state this is taking a look at the content that was added through the Anniversary Edition and not the recent update. The recent update I have taken a look at. Personally, nothing interests me, so that's why I'm not reviewing it. This is also reviewing the quests added through the Anniversary Edition, or at least a general synopsis of them. So I'm not taking a look at mods, as I don't play with mods. So, let's tackle this, shall we? Obviously, I divided this into 3 parts. Obviously, I will be talking about armor, weapons, and equipment in the first part, houses in the second part, and quests and miscellaneous content in the third part. So, let's start off with, the first part. Obviously, there is plenty of new armors introduced in Skyrim. We have some equipment also, like the Adventurer's Backpack, which, allowed us to carry a lot more stuff. I think it also allowed stamina to regenerate faster or something, and I think the same also with Magicka. Overall, the Adventure Backpacks were pretty useful. We also had plenty of alternative armors like Daedric Mill and Plate Armor, Dragon Plate Armor, Dragon Scale Armor, Dwarven Mill, and so on. There's plenty of armors to choose from, so whether or not you use light or heavy armor, this game very much has you covered. Whichever armor interests you is probably going to be an armor that you're going to use for quite a bit of the game. That doesn't interest you. We also have the Golden Saints and Dark Seducer's armor, which the Dark Seducer's armor is arguably probably my favorite armor in the entire game, aside from the studded Dragon Scale armor and Leather Scout armor. Overall, I think that Bethesda did a really good job of incorporating this into the game, along with those who made the mods. Next up, we of course have some weapons. So weapons in this game included the Bow of Shadows, Ruin's Edge, and various staffs, crossbows, and arrows, and other named weapons, and magic. I think that we got a really good thing going on here. The Bow of Shadows definitely is pretty useful. Turns you invisible for about 30 seconds, which is nice for those who love sneaking around. Also, plenty of new arrows are introduced. We have bone arrows, cork bulb arrows, like soul something arrows, which I think cast soul trap on stuff. I don't really use them that much. And of course we have fire, ice, and lightning arrows, which are pretty useful against dragons, might I add. We also have various crossbows, which, are pretty cool. Personally, it adds a bit more flavor into Skyrim, which for some might have been growing dull throughout these last years. We also have various staffs, which, I don't normally play as a mage. I definitely gotta give a lot of props to them because, it definitely made the game a lot more interesting. So that really covers it with the armor and weapons part of the video. So moving on to houses, we of course have Bloodchill Manor, Tundra Homestead, and quite a few other houses to talk about. So apparently Skyrim might have become Monopoly. So of course, obviously, with houses, we of course have Vendraheim, we also have Tundra Homestead, Golden Hills Plantation, if I remember that one correctly, and of course, Bletchel Manor. You also have a dwarven home, a house near Mars Eye Pond, a house near Morthal, and there's probably a lot more that I'm missing. Overall, I gotta say that housing options in Skyrim are definitely a lot more impressive. Obviously, some of the Hearthfire homes are definitely probably gonna be a lot better because there's probably a lot more space to work around with. But at the same time, it gives the player more freedom to decide where they want to live. Last part of this video is of course going to be, well, quests and miscellaneous content. So obviously there's a ton of quests added with Skyrim. Well, with this version of Skyrim. Obviously the ones I want to talk about are of course Ghosts of the Tribunal, Forgotten Seasons, The Cause, and Saints and Seducers. These are the ones I enjoyed a lot, if I'm being honest. The Cause, if I recall correctly, seems like it's a bit of a reference to Oblivion, as it references the Mythic Dawn, well, revolves around him, which is kind of nice. Ghosts of the Tribunal is also an interesting quest, and with some of these quests, potentially I might do a full video on some of them in the future, but I didn't want to focus on everything from the Creation Club / Anniversary Edition, simply because some of this stuff does get a little too repetitive, such as the alternative armors. Saints and Seducers was also an interesting one, and overall I really enjoyed most of the quests in this one. Of course, the final thing I want to talk about is of course survival mode and fishing. Obviously screw fishing, it's probably one of the worst additions in the game, but survival mode makes the game much more tedious. I never did a survival mode playthrough, but from what I've heard, it definitely makes the game a lot more challenging. So, what are my thoughts on the Anniversary Edition of Skyrim? Should you get this version if you don't have it already? And what should you expect from it? Obviously, you should kind of have your expectations be reasonable. Personally, while I did enjoy this version, it might not be that for everyone else. There's a few issues I have with this version, such as the fact that it does make the game a bit more buggy. I noticed graphical bugs in the PS4 and Switch version. The PS5 version seemed to work alright. I had a couple of crashes. The Xbox One and Series version seemed to work alright. Can't say anything about the PC version, but the Switch version does seem to be the worst version of the Anniversary Edition, since it bugs out a couple Dragonborn quests, which is annoying, because everyone wants the game to work. But I definitely recommend getting this one if you don't have it already. Personally, it brings a lot more life into the game, it makes it way more replayable than it already was, and it definitely brings a lot of interesting stuff to the table. And that's pretty much all I have to say about this version. As I said earlier, I might tackle one or two of the more interesting quests in this DLC, but overall, I had fun with it. It's definitely brought more enjoyment of the game, but that's all I really have to say for now. So until then, goodbye, thank you all for watching, and I'm really sorry that it took so long just to do this. I didn't know how to approach this until like a few days ago, and I had other videos I wanted to do, but this is out, so hope you all enjoy it, and I'll of course be back next time with, well, new videos. So, goodbye.